Jeff Bezos of Amazon exposes the National Enquirer as a blackmail racket. The Democratic Green New Deal gets off to a bit of a rough start, and we check the mailbag. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. Remember, like 1,000 years ago? Do you remember 1,000 years ago when President Trump gave the State of the Union address? You remember that? That was awesome, right? But that was like 1,000 years ago because so much has happened since then, and a lot happened yesterday as well. We'll get to all of it in just 1 second. First, let's talk about an uncomfortable fact. You're going to die, right? We're all going to die. We're all going to plot. And when we do, we want to make sure that our families have money left to take care of them. The best way to do that is to get some life insurance. But what do you know about buying life insurance? Do you understand life insurance well enough to buy it? Well, if you don't, you need to check out Policy Genius. They've created a website that makes it easy for you to compare quotes, get advice, and get covered. Policy Genius is the easy way to get life insurance. In minutes, you can compare quotes from top insurers and find the coverage you need at a price you can afford. From there, you just apply online, and the advisors at Policy Genius will handle all the red tape. They'll even negotiate your rate with the insurance company. No extra fees, no commission sales agents, just helpful advice and personalized service. And Policy Genius doesn't just make life insurance easy. Whether you're shopping for disability insurance to protect your income or homeowners insurance or auto insurance, they can help you get covered fast. So, no matter how much or how little you know about life insurance, you can find the right policy in minutes at PolicyGenius.com. Policy Genius is indeed the easy way to compare and buy life insurance. Go check them out right now over at Policy Genius. Again, just apply online. The advisors at Policy Genius handle all the red tape for you. No extra fees, no commission sales agents. Go check them out, PolicyGenius.com. Don't be buried in a pauper's grave. Check them out. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare and buy life insurance. Alrighty. So, the big news of yesterday is that Jeff Bezos went to war with the National Enquirer. Now, to be perfectly accurate, the National Enquirer first went to war with Jeff Bezos. Now, you'll recall that Jeff Bezos is the owner of both Amazon and the Washington Post, and he has been in a running gun battle with President Trump for legitimately 3-4 years now over President Trump's politics, President Trump's belief that the Washington Post is a smear machine against him. And so President Trump has reveled in all of the allegations about Jeff Bezos and all of the new information that Bezos was cheating on his wife with his next door neighbor, and now they're going to get a divorce, and his wife is going to walk away with $170 billion or something. Well, now it turns out that the National Enquirer was trying to blackmail Bezos. They had obtained photos and text messages of Bezos's crotch, basically. And then they went to Bezos and they said, "We'd like for you to stop using the Washington Post to investigate us, or these photos might unfortunately leak." Well, Bezos then just basically said, "All right, well, if you want to play this game, here we go." And he just unzipped and put everything on the table. So yesterday, in a very long post for Medium.com, he wrote, "No thank you, Mr. Pecker." There is something unbelievable about the fact that the owner of the National Enquirer is named Pecker, which led to the headline in the New York Post as well as the Huffington Post today, "Bezos exposes Pecker," which is a fantastic, fantastic headline. Here is what Jeff Bezos posted. He said, so first of all, just word to the wise, don't blackmail a guy worth $170 billion who also has the capacity to create two-day delivery for anything, right? And has drones, like squads of drones that work for him. It's just going to go very poorly. By the way, it turns out the main distributor for the National Enquirer, owned by Amazon.com. Okay, so here is what he says, Bezos. "Something unusual happened to me yesterday. Actually, for me, it wasn't just unusual, it was a first. I was made an offer I couldn't refuse, or at least that's what the top people at the National Enquirer thought. I'm glad they thought that, because it emboldened them to put it all in writing. Rather than capitulate to extortion and blackmail, I've decided to publish exactly what they sent me, despite the personal cost and embarrassment they threaten. AMI, the owner of the National Enquirer, led by David Pecker, recently entered into an immunity deal with the Department of Justice related to their role in the so-called catch and kill process on behalf of President Trump and his election campaign. Mr. Pecker and his company have also been investigated for various actions they've taken on behalf of the Saudi government. And sometimes Mr. Pecker mixes it all together. After Mr. Trump became president, he rewarded Mr. Pecker's loyalty with a White House dinner to which the media executive brought a guest with important ties to the royals in Saudi Arabia. At the time, Mr. Pecker was pursuing business there while also hunting for financing for acquisitions." That is from an article from, I believe, the Washington Post. "Federal investigators and legitimate media have, of course, suspected and proved that Mr. Pecker has used the Enquirer and AMI for political reasons. And yet AMI keeps claiming otherwise. American media emphatically rejects any assertion that its reporting was instigated, dictated, or influenced in any manner by external forces, political or otherwise." Of course, legitimate media have been challenging this assertion for a long time, and then he has a list of sources. He says, "I didn't know much I didn't know much about most of that a few weeks ago when intimate text messages from me were published in the National Enquirer. I engaged investigators to learn how those texts were obtained and to determine the motives for the many unusual actions taken by the Enquirer. As it turns out, there are now several independent investigations looking into this matter. To lead my investigation, I retained Gavin de Becker. I've known Mr. de Becker for 20 years. His expertise in this arena is excellent, and he's one of the smartest and most capable leaders I know. I asked him to prioritize protecting my time since I have other things I prefer to work on and to proceed with whatever budget he needed to pursue the facts in this matter. Perks of being a billionaire. Here's a piece of context. My ownership of the Washington Post is a complexifier for me. It's unavoidable that certain powerful people who experience Washington Post news coverage will wrongly conclude I am their enemy. President Trump is one of those people, obvious by his many tweets. Also, the Post's essential and unrelenting coverage of the murder of its columnist Jamal Khashoggi is undoubtedly unpopular in certain circles. Back to the story. Several days ago, an AMI leader advised us that Mr. Pecker is apoplectic about our investigation. For reasons still to be better understood, the Saudi angle seems to hit a particularly sensitive nerve. A few days after hearing about Mr. Pecker's apoplexy, we were approached verbally at first with an offer. They said they had more of my text messages and photos that they would publish if we didn't stop our investigation. My lawyers argued that AMI has no right to publish photos, since any person holds the copyright to their own photos, and since the photos in themselves don't add anything newsworthy. That is the case, by the way, that Peter Thiel and Hulk Hogan made against Gawker, and basically it bankrupted Gawker. AMI's claim of newsworthiness is that the photos are necessary to show Amazon shareholders that my business judgment is terrible. I founded Amazon in my garage 24 years ago and drove all the packages to the post office myself. Today, Amazon employs more than 600,000 people. I will let those results speak for themselves. Okay, back to their threat to publish intimate photos of me. I guess me, my lawyers, and Gavin de Becker, didn't react to the generalized threat with enough fear, so they sent this. And then the chief content officer, he pastes an email from the chief content officer of AMI to the litigation counsel for de Becker about Jeff Bezos. And it says, Marty, I am leaving the office for the night. However, in the interest of expediting this situation, and with the Washington Post poised to publish unsubstantiated rumors of the Washington Enquirer's initial report, I wanted to describe to you the photos obtained during your news gathering. In addition to the below-the-belt selfie, otherwise colloquially known as a bleep pic, the Enquirer obtained a further 9 images, and then they described the images, including images from Bezos to his lover, whose name is Sanchez, and pictures of his crotch and all the rest. Bezos says, that got my attention, but not in the way they likely hoped. Any personal embarrassment AMI could cause me takes a back seat because there's a much more important matter involved here. If, in my position, I can't stand up to this kind of extortion, how many people can? On that point, numerous people have contacted our investigation team about their similar experiences with AMI and how they needed to capitulate because, for example, their livelihoods were at stake. In the AMI letters I'm making public, you will see the precise details of their extortionate proposal. They will publish the personal photos unless Gavin de Becker and I make the specific false public statement to the press that we have no knowledge or basis for suggesting that AMI's coverage was politically motivated or influenced by political forces. If we do not agree to affirmatively publicize that specific lie, they'll say they'll publish the photos and quickly, and there's an associated threat. They'll keep the photos on hand and publish them in the future if we ever deviate from the lie. Be assured, no real journalists ever propose anything like what is happening here. I will not report embarrassing information about you if you do X for me, and if you don't do X quickly, I will report the embarrassing information. Nothing I might write here could tell the National Enquirer's story as eloquently as their own words below, and then he just dumps out all of their emails. So, here is why this is relevant. Number one, AMI was being used as a go-between by President Trump during the campaign to pay off various women. And that obviously has been reported on. The dot that has yet to be connected, and the one the media are jumping on here, is the suggestion that President Trump both hates the Washington Post and used AMI as a go-between. So maybe the reason that AMI was going after Bezos is because Bezos was going after Trump. So basically, AMI was afraid that Bezos was going to discover some sort of corrupt relationship between the Saudi government and AMI on the one hand and the Saudi government and the Trump administration on the other, and this corrupt triangle colluded together to go after Jeff Bezos, and then AMI tried to blackmail Bezos. To that notion, apparently de Becker has now been telling reporters that he thinks that Bezos' text message were actually obtained maybe by a government source, meaning that the phone wasn't hacked. Instead, government data gathering allowed the Trump administration to grab these text messages and then hand them off to AMI. Obviously, if that's true, Trump gets impeached, right? I mean, if that's true, then it's the end of the road for the Trump administration using government resources in order to grab the text messages of your political opposition in the reportorial field and then blackmail it. That would be the end of the line for president. I mean, forget about impeachment. He'd go to jail, right? I mean, that's an actual crime for a variety of reasons. But beyond that, they're trying to now connect dots that have not yet been connected. Nobody really understands why AMI was going after Bezos. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Trump going after Bezos makes sense in the sense that Trump doesn't like Bezos. He rails about him routinely. He calls it the Amazon Washington Post. He's been going after Bezos for years on Twitter. But the idea that AMI was blackmailing Bezos to stop reporting about their connection with the Saudi government, were they doing that on their own? If they were doing it on their own, it just demonstrates what we've already known, which is that AMI is basically just a payoff organization and is used by various rich people in order to shut down stories they don't like. Also, they blackmail people, right? This is pretty well known. All of this is going to come out. We're going to find all of this out because remember that David Pecker and AMI are currently in a plea arrangement with the Southern District of New York, in the U.S. District Attorney for the Southern District of New York. They are in a plea arrangement by which they are obligated to cooperate with the Southern District of New York. So if you think that all of this is going to stay secret, it is not. I will say this, all credit to Bezos, really. Like, I'm a fan of Amazon. I think it's a great company. I was one of the first subscribers to Amazon Prime. I've been a member of Amazon since like 1998. But putting aside my own business interests in this, journalists blackmailing people blackmailing people generally is really disgusting. And trying to suggest that you're going to reveal personal information about someone unless they do what you want is not only a violation of law, it is a breach of basic human decency. So good for Bezos. I mean, the man can't afford to do it. And honestly, what does he have to lose at this point? Like, people are going to see his junk? What does he care? He's the richest man on planet Earth. So what? Like, I assume that he has the same junk everybody else does, and he's feeling the same way. So honestly, good for Bezos. Good for Bezos. A lot of people today are saying, well, Bezos brought this on himself because he was cheating on his wife. All that's true, right? All that's true in terms of you shouldn't be sending text messages of your junk to other people. You shouldn't be cheating on your wife. All that's true. That is a separate issue from should personal issues be used by purportedly journalistic organizations to blackmail you? The answer, of course, is no. So good for Bezos for exposing that. That's good for the country. And frankly, it's good for the world. I mean, that is just, it's well done by Jeff Bezos there. All credit to him. All right. In a second, I want to get to the botched rollout of the Green New Deal by the Democrats because it is pretty wonderful. We'll get to that in just a second. First, let's talk about the debt you have racked up and how you can solve it. For decades, credit cards have been telling us to buy now and pay for it later with interest. Despite your best intentions, that interest can get out of control pretty quickly. With Lending Club, you can consolidate your debt or pay off credit cards with one fixed monthly payment. Since 2007, Lending Club has helped millions of people regain control of their finances with affordable fixed-rate personal loans, no trips to a bank, no high-interest credit cards. Just go to lendingclub.com, tell them about yourself, how much you want to borrow, pick the terms that are right for you, and if you're approved, your loan is automatically deposited into your bank account in as little as a few days. Lending Club is the #1 peer-to-peer lending platform with over $35 billion in loans issued. Go to lendingclub.com/Ben. Check that rate in minutes, borrow up to 40 grand. That is lendingclub.com/Ben. Once again, lendingclub.com/Ben. All loans made by WebBank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Check them out, lendingclub.com/Ben. Ensure that you are able to pay off that debt that you've been racking up and you haven't been doing enough about. Again, check them out at lendingclub.com/Ben, where you can check your rate in minutes and borrow up to 40 grand. Once more, lendingclub.com/Ben. Go check them out right now. As I say, all loans made by WebBank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender. All right, so final note on the AMI saga. So AMI has now announced that they are going to do an investigation of themselves. So OJ is going to search for the real killer. That is very exciting stuff from AMI. Obviously, it means nothing, but there are other shoes that are going to drop here. Here's the statement American media made in response to Jeff Bezos. They said, American media believes fervently that it acted lawfully in the reporting of the story of Mr. Bezos. Further, at the time of the recent allegations made by Mr. Bezos, it was in good faith negotiations to resolve all matters with him. Nonetheless, in light of the nature of the allegations published by Mr. Bezos, the board has convened and determined that it should promptly and thoroughly investigate the claims. Upon completion of that investigation, the board will take whatever appropriate action is necessary. Okay, he's not making claims. He literally took your emails and published them. That's the whole thing. That's not a claim. That's evidence. So AMI has got some serious troubles of its own. Okay, meanwhile, I am highly amused by the reaction of everyone to AOC's Green New Deal. So if you didn't listen to yesterday's show, you should go back and listen to yesterday's show where I broke down in full detail AOC's Green New Deal. Now, there was a resolution put forward on the floor of the House that was basically a series of aspirational motions about what we should do with the energy industry in the United States. And then AOC had the temerity to put online a 6-page summary of all the things the Green New Deal stood for. This was a very bad thing, as it turns out, because it turns out that AOC and her team have the combined brain wattage of a kumquat. The document is just astonishing. It is one of the worst political documents I have ever seen put together by human hands. It's incredibly stupid in every aspect. And yet, it was endorsed by every single top Democrat running for president of the United States. Cory Booker, Spartacus, he said, excited to join AOC and Senator Ed Markey on a historic Green New Deal resolution to address the peril of climate change and worsening inequality. Our history is a testimony to the achievement of what some think is impossible. We must take bold action now. And then for some reason, people started drumming in the background, just like in his campaign video. It was real weird. Senator Elizabeth Warren says, if we want to live in a world with clean air and water, we have to take real action to combat climate change now. I'm proud to join AOC and Senator Markey on a Green New Deal resolution to fight for our planet and our kids' futures because I want to paint with all the colors of the wind. Senator Elizabeth Warren. And then you had Kamala Harris, the brilliant newcomer from California who spends her days going after the Knights of Columbus and spends her evenings going after gang rape allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. She says, I am proud to co-sponsor AOC and Ed Markey's Green New Deal. We must aggressively tackle climate change, which poses an existential threat to our nation. And that wasn't all. There's one more. We also had Kirsten Gillibrand, who said, a Green New Deal is ambitious, it's bold, and I'm co-sponsoring this resolution with AOC and Senator Markey because it's exactly the kind of action it will take to conquer the biggest threat of our lifetime. Also, I'm against the resolution, but I'm also for the resolution. But I'm against the resolution and also for the resolution. Kirsten Gillibrand, with her typical savoir-faire and stolidity in support of her ideals. So all four senators who are currently running for president on the Democratic side endorse the Green New Deal. Bernie Sanders had nothing to say about it. He was busy presumably eating pudding. So all of them endorse this, and none of them apparently have read anything AOC has to say. And what's even more amazing is that the media have not asked any of them, do they support what's in AOC's actual statement? Remember, AOC sponsored it. Every single one of those tweets mentions AOC because she is the fresh face. So fresh, so face. None of them have been asked. None of these senators have been asked about her proposals to, for example, replace all air travel by rail, including presumably from Hawaii, which led Mazie Hirono, the senator from Hawaii, who is a Democrat, to say, what now? Are you like, huh? And then the proposal says that we should pay for full benefits, retirement, vacation for anyone unable or unwilling to work. She says we should retrofit or replace every building in the United States in the next 10 years. She says that we should get rid of cow farts by getting rid of the internal combustion engine. All of this was put in writing. We went through the entire document yesterday, like word for word. And it's funny because then you have the media coverage, which is, don't take her seriously. Don't take her literally, just take her seriously. We shouldn't take AOC literally. I mean, come on. Come on, why would you read her words and then say she means the words that she writes? Why would you possibly do that? In a second, I really need to tell you, it is incredibly astonishing. I'm going to tell you in 1 second what Politico had to say about this. So here's Politico's headline: The Impossible Green Dream of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The Green New Deal will never happen the way it's laid out. And that's also kind of the point. What now? Like, since when has somebody proposed legislation like it's not going to work the way they say it will? But that's exactly the point. It's like when you go to a modern art museum and it's just a blank canvas. You're like, what is this? And like, it's nothing. And you're like, well, then what does it mean? It means nothing. That's the point. Okay, except there's a policy proposal. So Michael Grunwald is a senior staff writer for Politico magazine. Let's get real. The United States is not going to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions in 10 years, the key goal of the Green New Deal resolution unveiled Thursday. More real talk. Americans won't get 100% of its power from zero emission sources within a decade either. Another audacious Green New Deal goal. And we're not going to upgrade the energy efficiency of every single building in the country, as the resolution proposes. If we were getting all our energy from zero emission sources, it wouldn't even make sense to try. But here's one more reality check. None of it matters. The official rollout of the Green New Deal on Thursday was met with a barrage of skepticism from well-intentioned fact-checkers, badly intentioned climate trolls, and desperate-to-look savvy pundits, all focusing on the logistical and political impossibilities of transforming the economy as rapidly as the Green New Deal envisions. And they're right. Its goals really do seem impossible to achieve. But they're all missing the point. If anything, they're helping the Green New Deal's backers make their point, which is that climate change is an unprecedented emergency. Okay, no, that's actually not what happened here. This is basically just it's just a version of Republicans' pounds. That's all this is. It's a version of AOC put out something so ridiculously stupid that it makes her sound as though she was dropped multiple times on her head as a baby. I mean, this proposal is so bad. It can only have been written by somebody who is mentally deficient in some way. It is a seriously ridiculous proposal on its face. On its face. No sane person could think otherwise. And so the comeback from the media is, well, you guys are pouncing. Because the real point is to open minds. That's the real point, is to make you think. To make you think. You know, it's a thought, it's a conversation. It wasn't meant seriously. You know, like co-sponsored by six senators and 60 Congress people. No, it wasn't meant seriously. It was meant to open your mind and broaden your horizons. Like, I'm sorry, this isn't some sort of trip to Europe junior year of college. This is a legislative proposal that envisions redoing the entire United States economy. By the way, if we were to do all the things in this proposal, you know what it would do to climate? Presumably nothing. Seriously, nothing. Because if you actually spec out the impact on climate, if the United States were to achieve full zero emissions, you know what would happen? Over the course of the next century, it would lower the global temperature, according to the IPCC, by something like 0.2 degrees Celsius. Why? Because it turns out that the real threat to the climate, if you believe in climate change, man-made climate change, the real threat to the climate is coming from not industrialized countries at this point, but developing countries like China and India, who have no interest whatsoever in lowering their emissions. So none of it makes any sense. But that's not the only idiotic media take today. There's also the New York Times, which can always be counted on to cover for the stupidity of Democrats in their reporting. We'll get to that in just a second. First, let's talk about how you protect your internet usage. Let's talk about your online security and privacy. So maybe you're one of these people who has things that you don't want people to know about, like you wouldn't want American Media International actually coming after you. Well, maybe you actually want to protect your data from hackers and spies. I don't want my emails compromised or my credit card number or online banking password stolen. I don't even have pictures of my junk out there. Yet that happens to hundreds of millions of people every year. So how can you protect yourself? The company I trust to defend my online security and privacy is ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN secures and anonymizes your connection by encrypting 100% of your network data and hiding your IP address. That means nobody can record or access your online activity. Download the ExpressVPN app on your computer or smartphone and then just use the internet the same way you normally would. You click one button in the ExpressVPN app, voila, you are now protected. ExpressVPN, it's great for accessing content from anywhere with VPN locations in 94 countries and blazing fast speeds as well. ExpressVPN is consistently rated the world's #1 VPN service for internet users. So, if you want the best in online protection, you want to free yourself from worries about hackers and spies, just head on over to ExpressVPN. The nice folks at ExpressVPN have now extended special pricing of less than $7 per month to all of my fans. So visit expressvpn.com/Ben to claim that discount. Again, that is expressvpn.com/Ben to learn more. Again, they are consistently rated the world's #1 VPN service for a reason. And it operates in the background of your computer seamlessly. It's not going to slow up your computer because they've got blazing fast speeds and VPN locations in 94 countries. You have nothing to lose. Pricing of less than $7 per month. ExpressVPN.com/Ben to claim your discount. Again, that is ExpressVPN.com/Ben to learn more. Go check it out right now. Okay, so we read you Politico's take. Here's the New York Times' take. You ready for this? On this idiotic plan that legitimately says we're going to pay people not to work. Quote, liberal Democrats formally call for a Green New Deal, giving substance to a rallying cry. Now, you may be wondering, did AOC write this piece for the New York Times? No, she didn't actually. It turns out it's written by Lisa Friedman and Glenn Thrush, both top-notch reporters at the wonderful, incredible New York Times. Listen to how this is covered. Liberal Democrats put flesh on their Green New Deal slogan on Thursday with a sweeping resolution intended to redefine the national debate on climate change by calling for the United States to eliminate additional emissions of carbon by 2030. The measure, drafted by freshman Representative AOC and Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts, is intended to answer the demand by the party's restive base for a grand strategy that combats climate change, creates jobs, and offers an affirmative response to the challenge to core party values posed by President Trump. The resolution has more breadth than detail and is so ambitious that Republicans greeted it with derision. Well, no, actually, we greeted it with derision not because it's ambitious, but because it legitimately has no plan for achieving anything that it says it wants to achieve other than completely destroying the United States economy. Other than that, it's great. Its legislative prospects are bleak in the foreseeable future. Speaker Nancy Pelosi of California has no plan to bring the resolution in its current form to the floor for a vote, according to a Democratic leadership aide. Why? Because Nancy Pelosi still has two brain cells to rub together. But listen to the New York Times. As a blueprint for liberal ambition, it was breathtaking. Imagine that Republicans said, we have a plan. Here's our plan. Full employment for everyone, taxes of 0, and abolition of 7/8 of the federal government. No details, just that. Do you think they would be talking about how it's breathtakingly ambitious? You think that's where that would go? It's breathtakingly ambitious? I mean, media bias is this is nauseating stuff. Nauseating. Now, what's hilarious is that the New York Times suggests that Nancy Pelosi's on the wrong side of history. People online yesterday, it was delicious. I mean, it was so delicious, as Neon Taster put it, that it must be fattening. People online, on the left, were suggesting that Nancy Pelosi is now a climate denier because she was not supportive enough of the Green New Deal. But the New York Times reports, Ms. Pelosi is likely mindful of her own past mistakes. A decade ago, she pushed the last major climate change measure hard, an ambitious bill to cap emissions of climate warming pollution. She got a cap and trade measure through the House. The next year, Democrats were swept from power. So now she's afraid, but she is letting her critics on the left know about her own past efforts and saying she's making climate change the flagship issue of her first speakership. Proponents of the Green New Deal insist that Democrats are unified. Ocasio-Cortez said, I think it is a green dream, because Pelosi kind of dismissed it yesterday. Pelosi said, well, I'm enthusiastic. Here's what Nancy Pelosi had to say, because she's not a complete dolt when it comes to, running the Congress. Here's what she had to say yesterday about the green dream.
Is the Green New Deal proposal a useful baseline?
I haven't, quite frankly, I haven't seen it, but I do know that it's enthusiastic, and we welcome all the enthusiasms that are out there. The Green New Deal points out the fact that the public is much more aware of the challenge that we face, and that is a good thing, because the public sentiment will help us pass the most bold common denominator, bold initiatives. I'm very excited about it all, and I welcome the Green New Deal and any other proposals that people have out there.
Okay, what she actually means there is, I don't welcome the Green New Deal. This is a very stupid thing, but I'm going to pretend to be enthusiastic because I don't want people yelling at me. That's really what she is saying there. Now, what's hilarious about all of this is that AOC can't even keep herself straight on what exactly this necessitates. So yesterday morning, she was asked whether, in fact, this Green New Deal would necessitate massive government intervention. And again, for all the people out there saying that she is savvy and smart, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I mean, if you are of the view that AOC is some sort of brilliant newcomer, I'm going to play you 2 clips in a row, and you got to tell me how exactly she's a genius. Here she goes, saying that maybe this might necessitate massive government intervention.
As you know, Congresswoman, one reason that people who are politically conservative are skeptical of efforts to combat climate change is that it sounds to them like it requires massive government intervention, which they just don't like. Are you prepared to put on the table that, yes, actually, they're right. What this requires is massive government intervention?
It does. Yeah, I have no problem saying that.
Fast forward about 6 hours. Here is AOC with Meet the Press's Chuck Todd.
One way that the right does try to mischaracterize what we're doing as though it's like some kind of massive government takeover. Obviously, what we're trying to do is, obviously it's not that, because what we're trying to do is release the investments from the federal government to mobilize those resources across the country.
In the real world, we call that being a damned liar, right? I mean, we just call that being a liar. Like, within 6 hours, she goes from, sure, it's a massive government intervention. And then after the blowback, she's like, well, no, these Republicans, they're pouncing. They keep characterizing it as a massive government takeover. It's not a massive government takeover. It's a massive government intervention. But sorry, I shouldn't say that. It's not a massive government intervention. It's unleashing investment. It's unleashing investment. So we're all supposed to take her seriously. We're all supposed to pretend she's not a damn liar. She's a damn liar, because all you have to do is read the words on her own website, which were so stupid that her own campaign had to take them off her website. She memory holed her own 6-page proposal yesterday. But we're supposed to believe, according to the media, that it's an act of genius. And also, we are not supposed to ask Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, or Kirsten Gillibrand about any of the details in AOC's proposal. We're not supposed to ask them about that. I very rarely get angry at media bias anymore, because it's just a fact of the world. It's just like the sun rising every morning. But it is absolutely stomach-churning how disgusting the media are at their job. I'm talking about the mainstream media, who will not ask any one of the top Democratic nominees how they feel about things like partial birth abortion. They won't get a straight answer from any of the top Democratic nominees about what should happen with sexual assault allegations against Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax in Virginia. They won't ask any one of these top Democratic nominees if they believe that those unwilling to work should be paid for unwillingness to work, according to AOC's plan, or why they think AOC's plan is so brilliant. They're not going to be asked about a single detail to abolish air travel. They're not going to be asked about any of those things. Instead, we'll just get the New York Times assuming that it's a breathtakingly ambitious proposal. And if we look at the details, it's because we are not looking closely enough. It's because we are not looking closely enough. Because if you push away all of the details, if you push away the thickets of details of that 6-page proposal, what you get to is a gem of genius, which is that we should care. What absolute unbelievable horse bleep or cow fart. I mean, it's unreal. It's unreal. We're going to get to more Democratic insanity in just a second. Plus, I want to talk about a sad piece of news from the Supreme Court. We'll get to that in just 1 second. First, you're going to have to go subscribe over at dailywire.com. For $9.99 a month, you can subscribe over at Daily Wire. When you do, you get the rest of this show live. You get 2 additional hours of me every single day. I mean, we are working our fingers to the bone every day to bring you that show in the afternoon. And I will say it's pretty awesome. We had a lot of good fun with our subscribers yesterday during the breaks. I take questions during some of the breaks, and it is a blast. You're going to want to be part of that. Also, you could have asked us questions during the Daily Wire State of the Union backstage. We have one coming up for the Oscars as well that's going to be awesome. And we have our Sunday special, which allows you to get if you're a subscriber, you get the last question of the Sunday special. You can't get it. And also you get it a day early, so it becomes the Saturday special for you. Our next Sunday special guest is none other than the great Gary Sinise. And if you're a subscriber, you and only you can watch that episode a full day early. Not only that, all upcoming Sunday special episodes will be available on Saturday, but only if you are a Daily Wire subscriber. So what exactly are you waiting for? Click to subscribe. You will indeed thank me later. And again, get the annual, because the annual is better than the monthly, because it comes along with this. The very greatest in beverage vessels, the long sought after, rarely obtained leftist tears hot or cold tumbler. Only one way to get it, and that is to become a subscriber. Go check that out right now. Also, subscribe to us at YouTube or iTunes. Leave us a rating, leave us a review. We always appreciate it. We are the largest, fastest growing conservative podcast and radio show in the nation.